Welcome to MSU Extension Tollgate Farm, a 160-acre historic farm located in Novi, Michigan. Tollgate offers visitors the opportunity to experience agriculture and natural resources hands-on in an urban environment. Today we'll investigate trees. At Tollgate we like to think like scientists and solve a mystery. Today's mystery is, what is a tree and how are trees alike and different? Today we're here in our arboretum in our sakura garden. And you can see that there's a lot of trees around here. What do you notice about the tree that I'm standing behind? What do you wonder about the tree? How does this look different or the same as trees that you see in your yard or maybe at your school? Now, what makes something a tree? What makes it different than, say, a sunflower or another plant? So all trees have roots, they also have a trunk with bark, and they have branches, and they have leaves or needles. Can you think of a tree that's in your yard or a nearby park? Does it have all these things? Even though all of our trees have these features in common, they also have differences. Can you think of some of the different types of trees that you've seen in your life? Do some of them have needles maybe? Branches? What does the bark feel like on these trees? Where do they grow? Now that we've decided what makes something a tree, let's go on a scavenger hunt and find one special kind of tree. So we call this meet a tree. So in my mind, I'm thinking of a tree. It's a tree on the farm and it's kind of special to me. Now I love to hug trees, but this tree's a little bit too big to be what I would call huggable. It also has a red bark that's a little bit rough on my skin when I touch it. It's also really, really tall, and it has needles and cones instead of leaves. So now let's take an adventure around the farm, and Miss Sarah is gonna look and see if she can figure out what my tree is. So here we are at a tree on the farm. So this is a larch, and Miss Sarah is going to see, is this my tree?
So I need to think Miss Jenny's tree was tall, and I think this tree is super tall. I have to look way up to see the top of the tree. Another thing that Miss Jenny's tree has is, she said its leaves, it has needles and cones. And so looking at this tree, at the branches, I noticed that it doesn't have leaves, it has needles. And then I also see little cones all over it. Another thing Miss Jenny said was the bark was rough. So I'm going to go touch the bark. Feels pretty rough, pretty rough. And then the last one was, her tree was not huggable. So she couldn't wrap her arms around it. So I'm going to see if this one's huggable. And it's pretty skinny and I can give it a nice big hug. So I have to think that this is not her tree, even though it has 3 out of the 4, but it's not huggable. So I don't think this is your tree, Miss Jenny.
You're right. All right, so here we are at our black walnut tree. So let's see, Miss Sarah, is this my tree?
All right, so let's start. I'm looking up and it seems really tall. So your tree was really tall and this tree is really tall. Another thing are the leaves. I'm looking at the leaves and they don't look like needles. These look like leaves. Then you also said there were cones, and I'm not seeing any cones, but I am seeing little green balls of something on the ground. Little green walnut balls, I'm assuming. And then the bark. Let's look at the bark. She said her tree is rough. It feels pretty rough. And then the last one was, it's not huggable. So let's see if I can give this a hug and wrap my arms around. I don't think so. Not huggable. So it has 3 out of the 4 again. But the leaves are not needles and there are no cones. So Miss Jenny, I do not think this is your tree.
You're right. So here we are at our dawn redwood. So Miss Sarah, what do you think?
All right, here we go. We're going to start with its height. And yet again, we have a very tall tree. I think this is our tallest one yet. So it's definitely tall like your tree. And then I look at the leaves. I'm gonna look here. And they look like needles, but they're very soft, very feathery. But it does have needles. And then you also said it has cones. And I don't see cones really up close, but if I look really, really high up, I see a bunch of little balls, which I think are probably cones. And if I look on the ground, maybe I'll be able, looks like past evidence of old cones. So this one definitely has cones. So it has cones, and then we need to see if it's huggable. And your tree was not huggable. So let's see if I can wrap my arms. And I can't fully wrap my arms around it, so I think this tree is not huggable. So going with your tree was tall. This tree is tall. Your tree had needles. This tree has needles. Your tree had cones, and this tree has cones. And your tree is not huggable, and this tree is not huggable. And your bark was rough, and this bark is really rough. So I think this is your tree.
You are correct. This is my tree. Now it's your turn. Find a tree in your yard or at your school or somewhere on your street and get to know it really well. Make sure you feel your tree, you even smell your tree, you look at it really closely. Then find a parent or a sibling or a family member and tell them about your tree. See if they can guess which tree it is. Thank you for joining us today at MSU Tollgate Farm. Make sure you watch the rest of the videos in this series, and we hope to see you on the farm in the future.